Rawlins, Wyoming. Winter, 1891. The wind that met the morning train didn't whistle. It groaned like the land knew another stranger had arrived without a place to land. Nora Vance stepped down slow from the last car. Her boots struck the plank with a hollow sound. One hand gripped the handle of a battered trunk. The other tucked a folded letter deeper into her coat pocket. She'd read it so many times she could recite it. Plain words. Honest tone. A man named Royce Mercer, widower, 59, seeking a steady woman to build something with. I don't want a bride. I want a partner. She'd believed him. The platform was near empty. Snow crusted the edges. Two boys tossed pebbles down the rail line. The station clerk glanced up, didn't smile. And then she saw him. Royce Mercer, clean coat, trimmed mustache, hat pulled low. He stepped out from behind a stack of crates and walked up slow, like the sight of her was something he hadn't prepared for. "Miss Vance." "Yes," she said. He paused, eyes traveling too slow across her face, down to her hands, then to the trunk. "I thought you'd be younger." She let that hang in the air. "I'm 58, she said, "and I got here on time." "I mean, no offense," he stammered. I was hoping to start a family. Raise children. I should have been clearer." "You were clear enough," she said. "You just didn't write what you were thinking. And I didn't come here to bear sons for strangers." He looked away, jaw set. "I'm sorry," he said. "This won't work." And just like that, he walked off the platform. Didn't ask if she needed help. Didn't offer a ride. Didn't look back. The train groaned behind her and pulled away down the track. Nora stood still, trunk at her side, nothing waiting but snow and whispers. She wasn't new to disappointment, but this felt like it had teeth. The station clerk opened the side window and tapped it. "Next eastbound's not till Thursday," he said. "You can leave that trunk inside if you want. No one will touch it." She didn't answer right away, then bent down, gripped the handle. "I'll carry it." And she did. She walked off that platform like it wasn't her first time being left behind. Because it wasn't. She hadn't come to be chosen. She came because she'd answered a question honestly. And sometimes that's all a woman can do. Rawlins was a town that minded its own. It didn't welcome, and it didn't warn. It just watched. And as Nora Vance carried her trunk one-handed across frost-stiff boards, the town did plenty of watching. She passed the general store. The boy sweeping the stoop paused. Didn't speak, didn't nod, just watched. The church bell rang without much enthusiasm. One clang, then quiet. Dura didn't slow. She hadn't come to be pitied, and she wouldn't beg. At the edge of the main street, she paused to catch her breath. Her hands were red through the gloves. The trunk, heavy with memory and linen, thudded against her boot with each step. That's when she heard him. "You look like you're dragging more than you packed." She turned. Gideon Blake leaned against the post outside the livery. Tall, worn like the land, coat patched in the shoulder. No smile, but not unfriendly. "That depends," she said, eyeing him. "You, offering help or judgment?" He stepped off the post. Slow. "Help don't come with strings," he said. "Judgment's for men who don't hold doors." She watched him another second, then nodded once. "Wagons tied up out back. You need a place to set it down? You always invite strangers to supper? Only the ones still standing after been dropped." She didn't answer. Not with words. She just picked up the trunk again and followed. The ride out of town was quiet. The kind that doesn't ask questions because it's too busy listening. Snow packed beneath the wheels. The horse didn't hurry. Neither did they. Gideon broke the silence once. "You come west for him?" "I came west for honesty," she said. "Didn't find much. Man's a fool," he muttered. "No," she said. "A fool don't know better." He knew. That was all they said until the trees thickened. The cabin came into view just past the ridge. Modest, built low, chimney puffing steady. Inside, it smelled of pine and strong coffee. He brought her trunk in without asking. Set it near the fire. "Chair's yours. Stove's hot. I don't ask questions after dark," he said. "You live alone? Long enough to know it don't mean empty." "I had goats once," she said suddenly. They ate everything but the Bible and the fence. He chuckled once. Just enough to count. That make you a widow or a shepherd? Both, she said. But I buried the man. Let the goats run. He didn't push. She didn't explain more. They sat in silence, fire snapping low between them. 2 chairs, 1 room, and no one needing to prove they belonged. The snow deepened that night, settling like it meant to stay. The fire burned slow and loyal. Nora sat in the rocker. Gideon patched a bootlace by the table. No one spoke. But nothing was missing. Then came the knock. 3 short raps, too clean for a man lost in weather. Gideon Blake stood first. Reached for the rifle by the door like it had always been part of him. Nora Vance didn't flinch. She just folded the quilt tighter around her legs. He cracked the door open with care. "Even in," said the man outside. "Name's Jed Carver. Horse snapped a leg 2 miles back. I've been walking since sundown. You folks got a floor I can borrow." The man looked rough, but not ragged. His coat was soaked, hair slick with melting frost, eyes that moved too fast. Gideon sized him up. "You hurt?" "Just cold," Jed said. "Just tired." "You armed?" "Only with charm," Jed said, smiling. Gideon didn't smile back. "Blankets by the fire," he said. "Floor's yours. You keep your hands to yourself." Jed stepped inside like he'd been invited. His eyes swept the room. "Nora, the trunk, the table, cozy," he said. "Didn't figure you for a couple." Nora looked up. "That's because you assume too much." He chuckled low and eased down near the fire, too close to her trunk. "Storm will trap us in," he said, stretching out. "No use worrying tonight." "I ain't worried," Gideon said. "That makes one of us," Jed muttered. Later, when Jed's breathing had evened out, too even, too fast, Nora whispered low, "He's not asleep." "I know," Gideon replied. "You seen this before?" "Once." She didn't ask right away. Then softly, "You want to tell it?" He stared at the fire. "My brother brought home a man after the war. Said he'd saved his life. Turned out he'd rather take mine than earn his own keep." "What happened?" "Let's just say I woke first." She nodded once. No drama, no pity. Just 2 people sharing a truth, because there was no one else left to carry it. Outside, the wind pushed against the cabin. Inside, it met something it couldn't move. By morning, the wind had calmed, but the silence had weight. The kind that makes a man shift in his sleep, and a woman keep one hand under the quilt, near the revolver she hadn't touched in years. Nora Vance sat in the rocker, eyes on the man by the fire. Jed Carver hadn't moved all night. Not a twitch, not a sigh. Gideon Blake stirred the stove like he wasn't watching. But he was. Jed sat up too fast for a man half frozen, grinned like nothing had passed. "That's some fire," he said. "You folks sure know how to keep a guest alive." Nora didn't answer. "You always offer up shelter to strangers?" Jed asked. "Only when the storm's meaner than the man," Gideon said. Jed looked at Nora again. Slower this time. "Ain't many women like you this far out." She didn't blink. "Good. Then you won't have anyone to compare me to when I throw you out." Jed laughed, low and sharp, then moved, fast. He lunged for the rifle by the door. Gideon blocked him with his shoulder, sent him into the wall. Jed came up with a knife, but Nora was already standing. The revolver was out before either man could speak. "Drop it." Jed turned toward her. "You're bluffing," he sneered. "Try me," she said. His eyes darted to Gideon, who hadn't moved, then back to her. "You ain't gonna shoot me." "I've buried worse," she said, "and I'm not in a forgiving mood." He paused, then let the knife fall with a clatter. "You're both crazy." "No," Gideon said. "We just keep what's ours." "Get out," Nora said. Jed looked to the door. "You throw me out there, I freeze. Then move fast," Gideon said. Jed hesitated 1 second too long, then left, slamming the door behind him like it meant something. Nora lowered the revolver, placed it back behind the flour tin. Gideon didn't speak right away. Then, "You've done that before." "Enough times to know when not to wait for someone else to pull the trigger." He nodded once. And just like that, the room settled again. The fire crackled. The snow held its breath. And the two of them sat, not shaken, just certain. The storm was done. But the cold lingered. It clung to the trees and tucked into the shadows beneath the cabin eaves. Inside, though, the heat stayed. It wasn't from the fire alone. Nora Vance stood at the window, watching the ridge where the stranger had disappeared. Gideon Blake was fixing the hinge on the back door. Quiet work, the kind that steadied the hands. They didn't talk about the night before. Didn't need to. The kind of danger that passes through and leaves you both standing. That's its own conversation. Later, they worked outside, stretching wire along the south fence. Post is crooked, she said. So's the ground, he replied. You fix one, the other leans harder. He looked over at her then. Just a glance. Still worth setting right. That was all they said for half an hour. That night, Nora came in from washing by the pump and found a second chair moved beside the fire. Her trunk had been nudged aside just a little to make room. He didn't mention it. She didn't either. But she sat in it. And that's what counted. Later, after the dishes were stacked and the fire was slow, Gideon poured her a second cup. There's a dance next Saturday, he said. She raised an eyebrow. You dance? Poorly, he said, but not alone. If I can help it. She sipped. Slow. You asking me to be stared at in a room full of people who already decided who I am? No, he said. I'm asking if you'll stand beside me while they try to figure out why I'm smiling more than usual. She set her cup down. You sure? I've been sure of less and asked more. She didn't answer. Not right then. But she didn't say no either. Which was more than enough. The sky over Rawlins cleared, come Saturday evening. Like even the clouds wanted to see what would happen next. The snow had crusted hard. The boots that crossed it had places to go. Nora Vance stepped down from the wagon slow and sure. Her dress wasn't fancy, but it was pressed. Her coat buttoned neat. Hair pinned with a touch of lavender from the bottom of her trunk. The kind that holds more memory than scent. Gideon Blake offered his arm. She didn't hesitate. Not because she needed help, but because it was time. The town hall glowed with lamplight and fiddle music. Laughter inside rolled like a river that had forgotten the frost. When they stepped in, the air changed. Eyes turned. Voices hushed. They remembered the woman who'd arrived on a train with nothing but a trunk and a letter. Now she walked in with something they couldn't measure. Gideon led her toward the floor. Not pulling, not presenting, just beside her. Like they belonged nowhere else. Still sure? He asked. I don't do things halfway, she said. The music didn't stop. Neither did they. Their steps weren't polished, but they matched. A dance between two people who didn't owe the room a thing. Whispers rose. Some stared. Some turned away. But no one stepped between them. One woman near the punch bowl said, "Too loud. She's too old for that." Nora heard it. Didn't flinch. Didn't slow. Good, she said to Gideon. Means I'm dancing for me, not them. He smiled. You always were. And they kept going. By the end of the song, no one was whispering. Not because they'd changed their minds, but because Nora Vance didn't need them to. She'd shown up anyway, with quiet boots, a steady hand, and no apology. And that kind of woman don't need permission to be remembered. The ride home was slow. Not from snow, from stillness. The kind that settles when nothing needs proving anymore. Nora Vance leaned back in the wagon beside Gideon Blake, her gloved hand resting on the edge of the bench. She didn't speak. Didn't need to. The night air pressed around them soft as wool. Above, the sky was wide and star-hushed. Back at the cabin, the fire was out, but the coals still warm. Gideon held the door open. She stepped through. Her trunk sat by the wall, quiet witness to the whole thing. He poured water into the kettle, set it on the stove. Coffee at this hour? She asked, half smiling. Only for company that matters. They stood by the hearth. Then she turned. You never asked why I came, she said. Didn't need to, he replied. And you never asked if I planned to stay. He finally looked at her full. You already did. She stepped close enough that their coats brushed. He didn't reach for her. She didn't wait for him to. They kissed. Not like the start of something new, like the end of a long silence. And in that small, quiet cabin, where nothing was promised but warmth and wood smoke, Nora Vance knew what it meant to be chosen by someone who saw her standing and never looked away. And that was how Nora Vance learned there is no expiration on love, only seasons. It happened 1 month after the dance. Snow still crusted the hills, but the chapel on the edge of Rawlins stood dry and lit with morning. Nora Vance wore a dress of dark blue satin, plain in cut, but pressed and shining under the chapel windows. Her gloves were pearl-buttoned, her brooch pinned proper. Her hair was pulled back, soft at the sides, just the way Gideon had said he liked it. Gideon Blake stood waiting, at the front, coat borrowed from a friend. Boots shined, collar stiff. He looked uncomfortable, but not unsure. His hands didn't shake. That's how folks knew it was real. The chapel was small, just 6 pews and a bell above, but it was full enough. A preacher, old as fence posts and twice as upright, stood with a leather-bound book. 3 ranch hands, who'd worked beside Gideon since the days after his brother passed, filled one pew. A widow from the feed store, the blacksmith's son, and a schoolteacher with stories in her smile sat across from them. At the front, Nora walked in alone. No one gave her away. She'd never needed help to stand straight. But as she reached him, Gideon offered his hand, open and waiting. And she took it, not to lean on, but to walk beside. "Do you take this woman?" "I already have," Gideon said. "And do you, Nora Vance, take this man?" She smiled then, full, real, the kind of smile that holds history. "I reckon he took me in before he knew he had." The preacher chuckled once, just once. "Then by grace and ground, your husband and wife." They kissed, quiet and sure, and when they turned to face the room, no one clapped. They just stood and nodded, because some unions don't need applause, just witnesses.